Have you ever noticed how some people can be completely silent and still keep everyone around them on alert? It is almost frightening. They do not need to speak loudly nor show off, and yet you feel that you cannot underestimate them. It is paradoxical, but these discreet people who seem invisible carry a power that most will never understand. And the most curious thing, this power does not come from status, money, or popularity. It comes from something much deeper, something that you can also develop. Imagine having this silent presence, this ability to influence and be respected without needing to shout, without needing to prove anything. Today, you are going to discover exactly why discreet people are so intimidating and how you can identify with this silent strength. If topics like psychology, philosophy, and the darkness of the human soul interest you, subscribe now to the channel. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to exist in a different rhythm? While most rush to post every meal, every trip, and even every little detail of the day, there are those who simply do not care to show anything. Their silence is unsettling because in such a noisy world, those who do not shout draw more attention than those who make noise. It is as if they say without words, "I do not need to prove anything." This type of behavior causes strangeness. It is almost like in a suspense movie, where the quietest character becomes the most intriguing. Not because they are hiding something dark, but because their lack of exposure creates a void that others try to fill with imagination. And it is precisely there that the power of the discreet lies. They do not need to show off to be noticed. While some turn life into a spectacle, discreet people live as if they are guarding a precious secret. They do not display joys, do not dramatize pains, and do not need to share every achievement as a public trophy. They simply live, and that almost sounds like rebellion in an era where everything needs to be recorded. The curious thing is that this choice, being so rare, ends up seeming intimidating to those trapped in the addiction of exposure. Some may think this is shyness or lack of interest, but in practice, it can be exactly the opposite. It is maturity, emotional intelligence, and even a form of freedom. Because those who live without the constant need to show themselves are already free from the greatest prison of today, dependence on external validation. And perhaps it is this silent freedom that bothers people so much. Think carefully. In a world where every gesture seems rehearsed to fit a caption, the silence of someone who does not need, it is like a shock. It is the breaking of a collective pattern. The discreet person becomes a living paradox, a resistance amid chaos. And because they do not play the same game as everyone else, they naturally awaken respect and, at the same time, apprehension. Psychology shows that silence is never empty. It carries profound messages, even without words. Those who choose silence show that they have found strength within themselves, not outside, that they have awareness amid noise, that they can move forward without needing applause. This is so rare that it is disturbing for those who have not yet learned to be whole in their own silence. It is like a chess game. While most spend energy moving hastily, the discreet person observes silently, waiting for the right moment. This stance is not passive, it is strategic. After all, those who speak little observe more. Those who observe more understand better. And those who understand better are always one step ahead, even if no one notices immediately. Deep down, the lives of these people prove that not everything needs a stage, that not everything needs applause. They do not react to the external. They act from what makes sense internally. And it is precisely this detail that creates an aura of mystery and power around them. But is that all that makes them so intriguing? Or is there something even deeper hidden in this profile? One of the greatest strengths of discreet people is the way they set boundaries. In a time when everyone seems to exceed their own limits just to gain seconds of attention, the discreet person chooses to preserve what is intimate. It is as if they build an invisible fortress around their own energy, not out of fear, but out of wisdom, While many believe that the more they expose themselves, the more value they will have, the reserved person knows that value does not depend on the number of eyes watching. They understand that some things were simply not made for public consumption. And when they decide to keep something just for themselves, they do it as someone protecting a treasure. This care is also protection against emotional exhaustion. After all, living in constant exposure is like leaving your front door always open. Sooner or later, someone enters without being invited. The discreet person, on the other hand, chooses to lock the door and give the key only to those who truly deserve it. This is a healthy boundary. If you notice, those who post little generally do not confuse visibility with value. They know that preserving their essence is worth more than displaying it to gain likes. It is like that phrase from old movies. Gold does not need to shout that it is gold. It simply shines, even in silence. The same happens with the discreet individual. The most interesting thing is that these boundaries do not push people away, they bring them closer. Because when a reserved person decides to share, you realize that it has weight, it has meaning. It is not just another ordinary post. It is like receiving a rare confidence, which would not be told to just anyone. And that generates immediate respect. In many ways, discreet people resemble modern samurai, firm, silent, aware of their own energy. They do not give everything of themselves to the first person who appears. They choose, they filter, and this careful selection gives them a strength that overexposure will never give, the ability to maintain their own peace. The curious thing is that this behavior also causes some discomfort in others. Because when someone refuses to expose themselves, it seems to send a message. You do not have access to me so easily. And that shakes the ego of those who are used to having everything available. The boundary becomes a mirror that exposes others' lack. It is exactly there that the power lies. The discreet person shows that their energy has value, that it is not available to just anyone. And by doing this, they leave a silent question in the air. Is value really in showing yourself to everyone? Or in choosing carefully who deserves to truly know you? There is something hypnotic about someone who does not fully reveal themselves. Discreet people carry a silence that screams louder than 1,000 words. When someone remains in the shadows, others begin to fill that void with assumptions, theories, and even fears. It is exactly this aura that fascinates, but also causes a certain discomfort. Have you noticed how, in a meeting, the person who speaks little seems to know everything? Mystery creates power. It is like in a spy movie. The character who keeps their secrets always has a strategic advantage over everyone else. It is not manipulation. It is simply the power of well-measured silence. Those who try to decipher the enigma end up revealing much more about themselves than the discreet person. Have you noticed how we become endlessly curious when something is not served on a plate? Discreet people observe more than they speak. They capture nuances that most overlook. A gesture, an expression, a tone of voice. Everything is registered and stored. That is why they seem always 2 steps ahead, without making a fuss. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, how did they notice that? Without knowing exactly when it happened. There is an internal security that comes from discretion. Those who do not constantly expose themselves do not depend on others' approval. This generates a silent, almost invisible confidence, but perceptible. It is different from arrogance. It is calm. It is control. And curiously, this stance creates a natural magnetism that others feel, even without realizing it. The silence of discreet people is full of meaning. Every chosen word carries weight. Every action is strategic without being theatrical. Instead of exposing themselves at every impulse, they accumulate knowledge, experiences, and perceptions that become an internal arsenal. Have you noticed that talking to someone like this makes you feel more self-aware, as if you were forced to think before speaking? they are difficult to predict. In board games or strategic video games, those who do not reveal their cards first always have an advantage. In real life, it is the same. Unpredictability intimidates, but also inspires respect. You feel, even without knowing why, that you need to keep your eyes open and your behavior alert around these people. This combination of silence, observation, and mystery generates an almost invisible aura of power. It is not about dominating, but about influencing indirectly, effortlessly. It is the art of being noticed precisely by not drawing attention. And let's face it, there is something fascinating about someone who manages perception without raising their voice. Right, and here is the paradox. The more you try to understand a discreet person, the more they remain enigmatic. This is the point that makes people around them uncomfortable and curious at the same time. Their secret is not aggressive, it is not manipulative, but it is deep. And this is exactly what leads us to ask, what else does a person like this keep inside themselves? Discreet people have an internal radar that seems to perceive everything. They capture intentions and emotions and subtleties that most overlook. It is not telepathy, it is refined attention, the result of observing more and speaking less. Have you ever felt someone notice something about you before you even spoke? This keen perception causes a silent impact. In a conversation, a look or a well-placed phrase can reveal that they understood much more than it seems. It is as if every gesture of yours were recorded in an invisible diary. And strangely, this generates respect and even some apprehension, because no one wants to be easily unveiled. The emotional intelligence of these people is refined. They know when to intervene and when to remain silent, adjusting their actions according to the environment. It is not manipulation, it is natural strategy. Have you noticed how discreet people manage to navigate complex groups without causing friction? Simply because they know how to read every detail. It is fascinating and at the same time intimidating. Imagine playing chess against someone who sees not only your moves, but your intentions. That is how it feels to be near a discreet person. You have to be careful, but at the same time, admire the silent precision of their perceptions. Keen perception also creates an invisible social advantage. They understand what to say, when to speak, and when to remain silent without needing to compete or expose themselves. This ability often makes them seem smarter or more mature than other people. Even without flaunting knowledge or status, they become observers of human behavior at its deepest level. Small patterns, repetitions, and inconsistencies do not go unnoticed, and this allows them to respond with clarity and precision without confrontation. Have you noticed how someone like this can diffuse arguments with just a simple comment? The combination of mystery and keen perception creates an almost hypnotic effect. People feel respect and even a certain reverence, even if they cannot explain why. It is a subtle, silent power that intimidates more than any ostentatious display of strength or knowledge. And finally, this internal radar makes the discreet person unpredictable and strategic. Every step is calculated, not in a cold sense, but with awareness and intention. Those around them notice, even unconsciously, that they cannot underestimate this person. And this naturally leads us to think, how do they manage to maintain such perception without exposing themselves? Discreet people do not wait for approval to act. They follow their own rhythm and logic. This silent autonomy creates a kind of frightening independence that unsettles those who depend on external validation. Have you noticed how uncomfortable it is to be near someone who does not bow to the opinion of the group? They make decisions without drama, without needing to justify every step. This stance is liberating for them, but it creates tension in others. It is as if everyone around is questioning, how can she be so centered? What seems simple for the discreet person is almost incomprehensible to others. The freedom of those who are discreet is manifested in small everyday actions. They do not expose themselves on social media. They do not participate in gossip. They do not need to be the protagonist. And curiously, it is precisely this moderation that creates power. Have you noticed how someone who does not seek the spotlight attracts more attention than those who shout for it? This autonomy is also emotional. Discreet people do not depend on other people's drama to feel alive. They handle conflicts strategically, with patience and observation. Have you ever wondered why certain people manage to remain calm in chaotic situations while everyone around panics? The discomfort they cause comes from contrast. While many despair for recognition, they remain silent, focused, and steady. This contrast generates curiosity and even respect, but also subtle fear. Those who are not used to this stance tend to feel insecure in the presence of someone like this. Autonomy extends to social relationships. Discreet people choose their circles carefully, without haste, without pressure. They do not depend on approval or popularity, and this leaves a mark. Everyone realizes that this person is not available for manipulation or trivial social games. It is an autonomy that intimidates, because it reveals vulnerabilities in others. Those who depend on applause and validation feel exposed next to someone who simply does not care about it. Have you ever felt that silent weight when realizing that someone around does not need your recognition? And here is the essence. Discreet autonomy is not just power. It is protection. It is an invisible barrier that keeps the person in control of themselves and their energy. And of course, this leads us to question, if independence can be so intimidating, how do we react to it? Discreet people seem to have a calmness that defies time. They do not rush, they do not get upset easily, and they maintain a serenity that disturbs the impatient. It is like observing a river that flows silently, but whose strength no one doubts. Have you ever noticed this difference when someone remains calm while everyone around tenses? This calm is not passivity. It is strategy. Every gesture, every word, every silence has intention. While others react impulsively, they plan silently. It is like a chess player who evaluates the entire board before moving the most obvious piece. Tranquil presence generates authority without the need for demonstration. In groups, this person becomes a point of reference without having to say, "Look at me." Well-placed silence speaks louder than any inflamed speech. Have you noticed how a simple phrase said by a calm person carries much more weight than 1,000 words of someone in despair? This calm naturally disarms conflicts. Discreet people can listen, observe, and respond in ways that neutralize tensions effortlessly. It is a rare skill, almost instinctive. Have you ever been impressed to see someone resolve a complicated situation just by maintaining serenity? Strategic calm also conveys inner security. Those nearby realize that this person is not vulnerable to provocations or other people's drama. This perception, although silent, generates immediate respect and even some fear. After all, no one likes feeling observed by someone who does not get upset easily in pressure situations. They always seem 2 steps ahead. While others panic, they analyze, breathe, and act with precision. It is as if chaos is just a backdrop to reveal their own silent competence. And this leaves others intrigued. How can they stay so composed? Strategic calm also strengthens their image of mystery. When no one knows exactly what is happening inside, any action gains weight and impact. This contrast between silence and action makes discreet people seem almost enigmatic. It is hard not to feel attracted to or challenged by someone like this. And finally, this almost supernatural tranquility creates a hypnotic effect. Observers feel curiosity, respect, and a touch of intimidation. And this leads to an inevitable reflection. If calmness can be so powerful, how do we react to someone who never loses control? Discreet people have an intelligence that does not need to show off. They learn by absorbing details that go unnoticed by most. It is as if every interaction is a laboratory, every conversation a practical lesson. Have you noticed how these people always seem to have the right answer at the right time? This silent intelligence intimidates because it is invisible, yet omnipresent. Those who try to underestimate or ignore it end up revealing more than they would like. It is like a spy game. You never know what has been recorded, and every gesture can have meaning. And this keeps others on constant alert. Discreet people understand behavior patterns quickly. They notice inconsistencies, hidden intentions, and subtleties that others ignore. It is as if they have a radar for humans, decoding actions before they happen. Have you ever had the feeling that someone understood you better than you understood yourself? This intelligence is not limited to observation. It translates into strategic action. Every word, every gesture, every decision is calculated with silent precision. That is why they always seem 2 steps ahead, even without apparent effort. And this generates fascination and respect in those around them. The power of silent intelligence is that it does not need to prove anything. There is no ostentation, no competition, only a presence that disturbs those who depend on constant displays of knowledge. Have you ever wondered why some people can influence so much just by being calm and attentive? Discreet people also accumulate experiences and lessons without haste. Every interaction is recorded. Every situation is analyzed. This strategic memory creates a vast repertoire that is used almost invisibly. And this leaves others puzzled, not knowing how this person seems to know so much without speaking much. This combination of observation, analysis, and action creates an aura of immediate respect. It is not about intimidating, but the effect is the same. Everyone realizes that underestimating this person would be a mistake. And curiously, this silent respect makes others seek their opinion, even if they almost never offer it. And, in the end, the silent intelligence of discreet people leaves us reflecting. What do we really know about those around us? It is impossible to decipher everything, and perhaps that is exactly what makes these people so intriguing and, at the same time, frightening. Discreet people possess a silent power that does not need to be announced. It manifests in presence, in the gaze, in the ability to influence without making a fuss. It is the kind of strength that makes everyone around aware that they are dealing with someone special. Have you noticed this energy that cannot be explained, but is immediately felt? This invisible power intimidates because it is unpredictable. Unlike those who impose themselves with words or gestures, the discreet person keeps their strength hidden, like a sheathed blade that no one knows when it will be used. And this generates respect mixed with curiosity. Those around do not know what to expect. It becomes even more evident in critical situations. While others despair or lose control, the discreet person maintains serenity and clarity. It is as if chaos were only a scenario to demonstrate their silent competence. And inevitably, everyone notices this difference without needing explanation. The invisible power is also emotional. Those who are discreet are not easily manipulated, nor do they yield to external pressures. This autonomy creates a force field around them, which protects and simultaneously attracts. Have you felt how difficult it is to convince someone like this of something they do not truly want? The presence of this person changes the group dynamic. Discreet people can influence decisions, guide situations, and even generate respect without raising their voice. It is a silent, almost intuitive leadership. And curiously, many recognize this authority without exactly knowing how it works. This power also provokes introspection in others. By observing someone so centered and attentive, we notice our own weaknesses and dependencies. It is uncomfortable, but at the same time inspiring. Those who are not used to this stance feel a mixture of admiration and apprehension. The strength of discreet people is subtle, but constant. Every gesture, Every measured word and every strategic decision reinforces their image as someone who cannot be underestimated. It is the kind of power that is not flaunted, but everyone around perceives, even unconsciously. And finally, the true impact of this invisible presence is continuous. It leaves a silent but lasting mark on others, provoking curiosity, respect, and a touch of subtle fear. And it is precisely this combination that makes us reflect. Why can someone who speaks so little be so intimidating? And then, what did you think of this content? Did you identify with any characteristics of discreet people? Tell me in the comments which character you want me to analyze next here on the channel. Remember, understanding these subtleties is the first step to developing your own silent and powerful presence. If you want to keep learning and diving deeper into this type of knowledge, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to not miss the next videos. Every detail you absorb here can transform the way you perceive the world and how the world perceives you. These 2 videos in front of you are not here by chance. And if everything you believe about yourself is only a reflection of someone else's gaze, click now on one of the videos on the side and start breaking that mirror. You will have to risk the click. So, which one will you choose?